YouTube. I wanted to get some thoughts out tonight on something that's percolating in my mind, and it's about Bitcoin. Everywhere I go these days in the culture, Bitcoin is being pumped, and the people who believe in Bitcoin have this narrative about how Bitcoin is going to, Bitcoin's going to 100,000. It's going to $200,000, a coin. It's going to 500,000, a million. Who knows? It's going to be, according to them, it's just going to keep going up, up, and up, and up. And a lot of these people are very smart, and a lot of them are honestly smarter than me in a lot of the specifics. Like, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a trader, like a professional trader or anything like that. I just have street smarts and experience, life experience, okay? Turned 50 this year, as a matter of fact. So there's a lot of things about this Bitcoin narrative and the general crypto narrative that are just wrong, and they're just obviously wrong. And it's funny almost how very smart people, they gloss right over these things, like they're blind to these things, and they're very smart, and yet they cannot see some of the basic problems with this entire narrative. So I want to first of all talk about what their narrative is, why they think Bitcoin is destined to go up to, ungodly sums of worth. And then I'm going to tell you what's really going to happen, why they're wrong, and what's actually going to happen with it. Spoiler alert, it's going to zero. Okay, let me just give you an idea. I listened to probably about at least 20 different videos on this topic from the account known as Trader University, which is, the guy's name is Matthew Kratter. And I actually really enjoy his videos. I take nothing away from him. I really, guy has a good way. He presents his information well and concise, much better than I do, because this is going to be a rambling video off the top of my head. But he usually has good notes, and he prepares his stuff. And he's obviously a really smart guy. I think maybe he's a programmer. I know he's a trader, obviously, Trader University. But I think maybe he's a programmer from some of the lingo that he's used in his videos. So he's a really smart guy. But he really strongly believes in this narrative, and he probably does as good a job as any of these guys of expressing the narrative. But there's several things that he says all the time in these videos that to me is just obviously wrong. And I want to talk about that. So one of the things is these guys believe that Bitcoin is destined. They believe that basically Bitcoin is like the perfect prototype of money, because it's, you take the physical element out of it, so you can transmit it over the internet and everything. It's not tied in with any commodities, so it's not, doesn't have any other use cases other than being pure money or whatever. And then they talk about things like the fact that there's only 21 million, so it has this rarity. They wanted to make it digital gold. It's digital gold because there's only 21 million of them, and there will never be more than that. So, central banks can't print them. Nobody can. There's nothing anybody out there can do. You can't go to an asteroid in space and get more Bitcoin. There's only ever going to be 21 million. And all right, so let's start with that. Well, first of all, they say because there's only going to be 21 million of them, what's going to happen is that as more and more people and the societies around the globe want to use this stuff, the value is going to go up because there's only so much of it. And as more demand rises for it, then the value of it will go up. And also because all the fiat currencies are going to be continually being devalued, through inflation and massive money printing by the central banks. So for all these reasons, like I say, they say Bitcoin's going to go to 100,000, then it's going to go to 500,000, then 1 million, then 1 billion, who knows? Now here's the problem right off the bat. Just because something is rare doesn't mean it's worth anything, okay? Peter Schiff has made this point so eloquently over the years, and yet it doesn't seem to filter through to these guys. They'll talk about the rarity and so forth. You could right now go out and make up another thing that's exactly the same thing as Bitcoin and make 21 million of them, or however many you want. You could institute the same sort of thing, and if you get people to buy into it, there's no reason why. It would be just exactly the same thing as Bitcoin. So there, boom, you've just doubled the amount. But here's the important thing is there's no intrinsic value to these things. The only value is if you can get other people to believe it has value, right? So if you get two people and both of you agree that it has value, then it has value. But there's no intrinsic value there. So the minute that something happens that deprives that thing that has no intrinsic, speaking specific, so we're not getting, these guys really have this faith that the governments are not going to be able to stop Bitcoin if they really want to. And that's where they're just wrong. The governments, Russell Napier, the fantastic economist, or investment guy, whatever he is, the Scottish guy, he says all the time that the problem with Bitcoin is it was too successful. It's too good at what it does for governments to allow it to function for what the Bitcoin bulls, the Bitcoin maxis want it to function as. So they're going to at some point step in. They talk about how this thing's going to be so successful while fiat is going up in smoke, and they don't stop to say, oh, hey, wait a minute. If that happens, then the people putting out the fiat, which is the governments, are not going to let it happen. They're going to step in, and if you think they can't do it, they can do it, okay? They have 1,000,001 ways, and the problem is, Bitcoin it's a big public thing. There's and again, I'm not any kind of an expert in the blockchain or the stuff of how it works, but the way I understand it's basically a ledger system. It's a computerized database ledger system of some sort, and it has all the transactions. They're all in there and they're all public. Now the government is getting better and better all the time at following these transactions and tracking down everybody that they want to track down, pretty much, and getting taxes out of them or sending them to jail and confiscating their bitcoins for whatever reason. They're various criminals. Do you think that the government cannot, if they can do that? Let's say we get a future time where the dollar system is actually threatened, where Bitcoin's success has taken off now, and it's actually threatening to rival the dollar system, or maybe some rogue governments have adopted it. Maybe Russia and Iran and some others, Venezuela or something. they're using it in massive amounts, and they get a few other countries to buy in, and you know, you can kind of come up with a million different scenarios. But let's just say it gets to a point where it's being adopted so much that it's threatening the dollar system. Now, if the United States, not just the United States, but the whole West, and even many non-Western countries, if they were willing to freeze Russia's central bank assets, which was an extreme step, do you think that for 1 minute, if their system is threatened by Bitcoin, that they would be unwilling and unable to step in and throw up all kinds of roadblocks? Absolutely they will. And this stuff all happens over the internet. Do you think that they don't? We already know from the past. We know from stuff, you know, things that were revealed by Edward Snowden or whatever his name was. You know, they were working with the telcos to capture all the data that was going through the pipes, everything. Do you think they can't do it? They're probably still doing that. Do you think that if it comes down to it, and they deemed it a matter of national security, that they would not be able to go through that data and find out? Say they passed a decree, say they outlawed it, you know, put sanctions on it or whatever, and come up with, there's a million different ways that they can come up with laws, executive orders, you know, emergency measures, whatever. And once they do that, then they go to the telcos and say, hey, we've got this executive order here. We order you to let us tap into your lines and, you know, go through all your data and find people that are breaking the law and in contravention of these measures, these emergency measures we take. They will clamp down. They can say, you know what they can't do? They don't know who has gold coins in their backyard. You can go to a bullion store right now and anonymously buy bullion with no ID. There's no record of it. There's no knowledge of it. That's what they can't find. That's why the governments, in my humble opinion, and I could be wrong, it's a bit of a conspiracy theory, but my conspiracy theory is that the government wants, the reason they haven't put the kiboshes on Bitcoin is they would rather people go into crypto than gold or other assets that are outside the system. They want everything on the grid because that way they can track it down. That way they can pass laws and enforce it. They can keep everybody in the system, and that keeps like a closed loop that people can't get around. Okay, gold is a problem for them. And, the Bitcoin maxis now will say Bitcoin is a problem for them too. And they're right. But now that's why I go back to what Russell Napier said. Bitcoin was too successful. It's too good. It's too good at what it purports to do, which is why they will never allow it. And people who, again, I go back to the thing. People who say, oh, they can't do anything about it. Oh, China wasn't able to do something about it. Yeah, China can do something about it. Okay, and the U.S. can do much more about it than China. If it comes down to where it's a threat to the system, they have their ways. I mean, look at how much since 9/11, for instance, like the Patriot Act. Look at all these know your customer laws they passed. We don't have any privacy anymore. They get reports. If you take, $10,000 out of your bank account, that gets written up by the bank and sent to the government. And if you say, oh, I'm going to be tricky, I'm going to take out, $5,000 this week and then $5,000 next week, and then they won't, that wasn't $10,000 at a time, therefore I won't get caught. Not only will they know, okay, because the banks have been ordered to watch for those sort of transactions, which are called structured transactions, but not only do that, but to do that for the purpose of flying under the radar is actually, they passed a law to make it illegal. It's committing a crime. Can you believe that? In America, taking money out of your bank account in a way to where you're trying to not get written up and have your privacy violated, the government makes you a criminal now. They passed that in America today, and the dollar system isn't even threatened. They did that as a way of supposedly, fighting terrorism, but what they were really after was tax cheats. That's what they're always after. Politicians want those taxes. They want their cut of the action, and that's their cut of the action. So, they did all this in the name of security, and they had the nerve to call it the Patriot Act. But do you think they would just sit there and allow, I guess we have to let Bitcoin be the new world reserve currency. Yeah, I guess we're just going to have to we have to give up all of our power of the printing press, of printing the dollars and stuff, because Bitcoin was so good, it just took over the whole. Hell no. Hell no. Why is the dollar going up recently, despite the fact that inflation is running hot? Because all the other governments are fiat currencies are doing worse than the dollar even. So as bad as the dollar is, the others are worse. Do you think the rest of the countries will not gladly participate in whatever cockamamie scheme the U.S. comes up with to get rid of, when the time comes and it's not serving their purposes, to get rid of Bitcoin and other crypto? They'll all get together, just like they did with all these know your customer type laws and everything. They all follow the lead because they're all in the same boat. They all too want to be able to print money and inflate at will and all the rest of it, and they want the power. They're not going to cede that to some sort of libertarian internet magic money coins, okay? Not going to happen. They tolerate it now. As I said, I personally believe that they're tolerating it, even maybe sometimes encouraging it, because they want it to, excuse me, try not to run off the road here. They are trying, it's serving a useful purpose now by attracting flows of money that would otherwise be going into gold, Okay, so that's point number one. Now, point number two, these guys with their scenarios of Bitcoin going to, going to 100,000, 500,000, $1 million, and so forth. They all have this basic sort of narrative, and I just listened to a bunch of Matthew Cratter's videos, and he expresses this in there over and over, and that. What we just saw since, Bitcoin made this big run up where it went up to 65,000 and so forth, that, he was predicting that by the end of 2021, it was going to go to 200,000. Okay, so the assumption there is that what we saw, this previous high that we just had of 65,000 per Bitcoin, that this was part of the process, that it's because of the devaluation, because the central banks printed all this money, and so therefore people that are looking to have sound money are going into Bitcoin and so on, and that this progression where they go up to 500,000, a million, or whatever, where Bitcoin just keeps going up and becomes the most successful money, they think that this is all part of the same thing, and they're completely 100% dead wrong. They do not understand what was actually happening in 2020 when Bitcoin went to 65,000. Their explanation is completely wrong, okay? And let me break down. Here's what I say actually happened in 2020, and here is why Bitcoin went to 60,000. Yes, money printing has something to do with it, but it's not what they think. Because it's not, the people that are going into Bitcoin are not people, not like sound money advocates who are leaving gold and, made this thoughtful process. Well, let's see, the Fed printed X number of money and X amount of dollars and so forth. Therefore, the dollar's going down, so I should move this over. No, there's none of that going on. The people here's what happened. The government shut down the economy. Okay, everybody. White collar workers, blue collar workers, people working at Walmart, people working at fast food, people, every auto mechanics, whatever, UPS drivers, everybody. Well, I don't know if they might have been working during the UPS drivers, maybe not. But anyways, you get the drift. Okay, the economy shuts down, everybody goes home, nobody's working, and the Fed starts printing money, and the government starts sending out stimulus checks to everybody. Now what happens? You have millions of people now. And also other countries, many other countries were shut down around the world too. So you had, probably billions of people not working, at home, getting sent free money from the government. And what did they do? Okay, they're not working. They got all this time on their homes, they got all this time on their hands at home. What are they doing? They're watching YouTube. There's nothing, you can't go out. Everything's shut down. They're at home watching YouTube all day. They're watching TikTok videos. They're watching whatever, Facebook, Instagram, They're on all these social media sites. And what happens? They have all this money now all of a sudden, and they're not working. They're getting all this money. For a lot of minimum wage workers, they were making a lot more money because not only were they getting sent more money from the government, but they didn't have to pay their rent. They didn't have to pay their student loans. They weren't having to buy gas because there was nowhere to drive. I mean, all of a sudden they had all this money, and it's burning a hole in their pocket. And what do? They go on these sites and they watch Matthew Cratter's Trader University videos, go into Bitcoin. I remember back in 2020, Matthew was correctly saying Bitcoin's going to go way up. And he was right. It went way up. It didn't go up as much as he thought it was going to go up, but it went way up. And, he wasn't the only ones. Lots of these people, there was all kinds of stuff. Like I say, so you're a Walmart employee, whatever, you're at home, laid off, you're getting this money from the government, and you're watching TikTok videos, and these guys are telling, hey, put it into Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to go to the moon. It's going to be 500,000. It's going to be $1 million. Buy it now. Get in early, and you'll make a lot of money. So this is what started happening. You had all these people with this money, free money from the government, sitting at home. A lot of them started, hey man, let's gamble with this. They call it investing, but it's really just gambling was all it was. It was like going to the casino and playing the slot machine or buying lotto tickets, whatever, which a lot of people would have been doing, if that was available. So what happened in 2020 was a combination of many things. That was the root of it, though. That's why Bitcoin went to 65,000. It was a combination of a huge number of these people having all this money from the government, and then having a big sort of mass movement where you had all these videos online where people who had never invested before, they got Coinbase, and they got Robinhood, and then even PayPal made it so you could start buying crypto through PayPal. All of a sudden there was all these gambling options, and people started doing it, and because there was so many people buying it, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy that went up. Now, smart people who are also very manipulative people, like Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, Elon Musk from Tesla, and a lot of other sort of Anthony Pompliano and Max Kaiser, I think his name is. There's all kinds of these people. Raoul Pal even got in on the Raoul Pal even got in on the action. He was he had his Real Vision videos. Bitcoin's going to go to the moon. Okay, so these guys could see what was going on. Okay, they jumped on the bandwagon. They harnessed it, so it went even further. Elon would make a tweet like like a little hint. I'm going to buy some Bitcoin or something, and then that would be a big pump. Then everybody would go buy it. Okay, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, what else did we have going on at the same time that was exactly the same phenomenon? The meme stocks. All right, the GameStop short squeeze, the AMC short squeeze, and all the other companies, Hertz and Nokia, whatever, all the other ones they went into. That was the same exact phenomenon. Okay. Now, is GameStop and AMC, are we going to say, well, because they went way up during this very temporary, very manipulated, and very specific set of circumstances, because meme stocks went way up, are we going to extrapolate that they're going to continue to go up that way on into the future, and eventually the dollar's going to fail and central banks are going to put GameStop and AMC on their balance sheets? Okay, obviously not. This is ludicrous. And the same thing with crypto. Bitcoin is not going to the moon. Okay, I'm not going to say that there couldn't be another situation. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of crazy things going on right now. If the Fed suddenly did a pivot and started easing again, and the government, started sending out stimmy checks again, or there was another shutdown, who knows? You can never say never. But personally, I don't even think Bitcoin's going to 100,000. I think the highs are in on Bitcoin. But even if it does, it's not going to keep going up and up and up and become the money that takes over the world. This is just delusional. These guys aren't thinking clearly. Bitcoin going to 65,000 was a one-time deal. It was lightning in a bottle. It's had its day. And what's happened since then? Since then, because a lot of these investment companies and traders and stuff, they created all these products so that people could trade it because they wanted a cut of the action. So now Bitcoin is really, there's a lot of trading of it going on. But look what's happening with the price. Okay, it's coming down. It's working its way down. It goes down and up and down and up. But it's general. It's about 40,000 right now, so it's about a third of the way down from its highs. And now the Fed's threatening to tighten. Now, if the Fed follows through on their tightening, even at the start of their tightening, and the market, you get a good sell-off in risk assets, personally, I think Bitcoin might just flush with the rest of it. And if Bitcoin goes, the entire crypto universe is going to flush at the same time. There is going to be a stampede out of crypto. There's going to be a giant panic, a sucking sound, as everybody who hodled this garbage, this worthless crap, they are all going to head for the exits at the same time, trying to get anything. And there's not going to be buyers. And, there's going to be a few buyers, but it's going to be like a falling knife. This crap is going to go down, and the whole thing is going to flush. It could go down to zero or pretty darn near close to zero. That means NFTs, virtual real estate, all the Bitcoins, the Ethereums, all the way down to the Doge coins and the other Shiba Inu and all the rest of this garbage. It's all going to go to zero. And when that happens, there's going to be a stampede into real assets. People are going to gold will probably moon if that happens. I say when it happens. I believe it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. When it happens, real assets are going to be like unobtainium. You know, everybody's going to want them, and it's going to be at the same time, and they're already hard to get now when there's really not that many people interested in things like gold and other precious metals. And that's when the millennials and the Zoomers are going to learn an extremely valuable lesson. They're going to learn a lesson that all pyramid schemes eventually fail. All Ponzi's eventually run out of fresh meat. And when the rush comes, boom, that thing pops. And you thought you were going to have time. You thought, well, you know, if I see it coming out a little, I'll get out. No. By the time you realize what's going on, it's too late. And you're wiped out. And they're going to get wiped out. And they're going to learn a valuable lesson. And that will be the end of crypto. And that sort of nonsense. And that will be the birth of a new era of interest in gold and hard money. That's my time tonight, folks. Have a good one.